On today's episode of Let's Talk Drones, I'm showing you the step-by-step process for mounting the DJI O3 Air Unit on board the BETAFPV Pavo20. When BETAFPV sent us the Pavo Pico, they sent us just the airframe, no VTX on board, so it was up to us to go out and find a VTX that we wanted to use and then mount it and integrate it into the drone's system. The same can be said for the Pavo20. When BETAFPV sends you this drone after you purchase it, you're going to need to mount your own VTX. That means whether it's the DJI O3 Air Unit, something from Walksnail, whatever the case may be, you have to go out, buy it yourself, and mount it yourself. BETAFPV has made the mounting and integration process super simple. I'm going to show you that today. So without further ado, let's talk drones. What's up? It's Chris, the Drone Geek, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Drones. Let's Talk Drones is brought to you by The Droning Company, the #1 online resource for commercial remote pilots based anywhere in the world. That's right, you don't have to be based in the United States anymore to benefit from The Droning Company. Make sure you check out their website, thedroningcompany.com, but right now what The Droning Company wants is for you to go and subscribe to their YouTube channel. So if you haven't already, head over there right now and subscribe to their channel. The reason I'm telling you this now is because in just a few weeks' time, myself, Sam Karp, John McBride, Stuart Smith, and a bunch of folks from the Droning Company are heading to AUVSI Exponential 2024 in San Diego, California. We're going to have tons of video interviews that we're going to be posting to that YouTube channel. Myself, John McBride, Sam Karp, we're all going to be on camera, along with our friend Timothy Brazel of Hollywood Drones. We're going to be interviewing a bunch of folks at the show, seeing what's going on and what the latest innovations are in the world of drones. That's right, AUVSI Exponential 2024 from April 22nd to the 25th. We'll be posting videos to our YouTube channel, so make sure you get subscribed. And if you're attending AUVSI this year, make sure you stop and say hello as well. I'd be happy to talk to you. The Droning Company, the #1 online resource for commercial remote pilots worldwide. So before we jump into the actual process of mounting the O3 Air Unit, I do just want to say this can be a little bit overwhelming for folks that aren't accustomed to assembling FPV drones. And this doesn't get into the nitty-gritty of like soldering and knowing how to configure and things like that. It doesn't get quite that deep. There's a little bit of configuration you need to know specifically for the BETAFPV Pavo20, Pavo Pico, and pretty much probably anything from BETAFPV, but I'll show you that in a future video. Right now, what we're focused on is integrating the hardware, the DJI O3 Air Unit on board the Pavo20. So I just want to make sure that you know this video seems like it's going to be long, complicated, involved. It's really not. I promise you, if you watch this video from beginning to end, you will see the process is very, very simple. I do just want to make it very clear, this is future Chris talking. I did have a tiny, tiny little camera malfunction towards the end. I ran out of tape, and so it was very frustrating, but we were in the home stretch of things. It was literally the last step. So just make sure you're paying attention. You won't miss much by that little blip in the camera, and I'll make sure that you're aware when that happens that we have missed a little segment of the assembly. But again, 95% of this we covered without any type of issue. I'm going to walk you through that right now, so let's get into it. So as you'll see here, we have this beautiful box sent to us by BETAFPV, and inside this box is the Pavo20. I'm really excited about this. This is the next step up from the Pavo Pico, which I actually happen to have right on hand here. Now, if you remember correctly, with the Pavo Pico, they sent us just the drone. So everything was already tuned, everything was already assembled in terms of the drone, the airframe, the brains of the drone, the motors, etc. We just had to add the VTX, which in this case, we put the DJI O3 Air Unit on board. The Pavo20 here, which is what this video is actually about, is much the same. It's not a very big drone. You could maybe put a smaller action camera on board, but really it's not too much bigger than the Pavo Pico. So we're just gonna go ahead and we're going to put on a DJI O3 Air Unit so we can maximize flight time with the Pavo20 and still get buttery smooth 4K and 2.7K footage. So gonna put that aside for now. Let's go ahead and unbox the Pavo20. And I will say this, I've been doing this right along. I've been slipping up and saying Pavo Pico when I'm referring to this drone. Oh, we're losing a little bit there. So this is kind of cool. We've got an LED light strip. I'm assuming you can wrap this around the outside of the frame and have like a glowy frame around the edges. So we'll do that in maybe another video. Not going to do that in this one. We've got our USB adapter as well as our USB, it looks like maybe it's a camera or VTX connector cable with that. So we'll use the one that DJI sends us as long as it doesn't get in the way too much. If not, we'll go ahead and use this one because that's pretty nice length overall and shouldn't get in the way. We've also got some spare parts, it looks like, or maybe some antennas. So yeah, we've got a couple of antennas in there. We've got some spare screws. We've got a spare frame piece, I'm thinking is what that is, but that's that there. And then of course, the coup de grace, the Pavo20. So I'm gonna go ahead and set this aside for now. So here is our airframe. This will be the front of the drone. This is the back of the drone. This is the battery connector for the drone. It takes the XT30 connection, so you're gonna want those smaller connectors on your batteries. And then this is the VTX cable. So we've already got one on board. I don't think we'll have to replace it with the one that we have here. So we're gonna set all that stuff aside and we can get started on the assembly. I'm gonna move this box piece around so you can see nice and clear. So we do have a frame here that's gonna hold the VTX in place, the DJI O3 Air Unit in place. So that will mount to the top. It'll actually probably be more like that. And then we'll have our completed drone. So what we're gonna need to do is next is unbox the DJI O3 Air Unit. If you've never done this before, they have a nice little pull tab here. Go ahead and pull that, and then it should pretty easily, I'm notorious for tearing these boxes. It should pretty easily just slide out of the top. And it does. Okay, so we've got some literature in the box. We're not gonna go over that. We've got some warning labels. But there is our O3 Air Unit. So we're gonna take this out of the box. If I can get it, there we go. Oh, just open the box up wide. Okay, so we'll put that aside as well. And this should be everything that we need minus tools, which I've got a toolkit here off to the side. And we don't really need too many tools. What we essentially need the tools for is to tighten and undo the screws that hold the O3 Air Unit in place. What I was talking about a little bit earlier as I was rambling is this USB connector cable. So essentially what they've done is they've taken the soldering out of applying the VTX system. So you take this little cable out. This is the cable that we use with the DJI O3 Air Unit, excuse me, it comes with it. We can put that aside, it's gonna be too much length. Instead, what we'll do is when the time comes, we'll pop this cable in there and then our VTX will be connected to our drone. So don't mind me as I let this sort of dangle the camera. It does have a protective plastic thing over it. We'll take that off once we get it mounted. The first thing we are gonna do is we are gonna take off these stickers here because we will want to mount the O3 Air Unit first. Okay, so we have our DJI O3 Air Unit almost ready to go. The next thing we want to do, just because of the nature of this drone, this is an okay antenna, it will work. And if you really need an antenna, for instance, this gets damaged, the antenna that you replace this with get damaged, you can always go back to this. However, it is a little bit bulky, cumbersome, and could throw the center of gravity off on this drone. Maybe not so much this one, but definitely the Pavo Pico. Either way, we're gonna play it safe. We're gonna replace this antenna with the two antennae that come in this bag. It'll be a little bit more nimble, a little bit more lightweight, and we won't have to worry as much about this interfering with the flight in any way, shape, or form. So the way that we're gonna do that is first we've gotta take the two screws out of this security plate for the antenna. So I'll say this, I do have a really nice toolkit here that gives me access to a bunch of different bits, attachments, whatever the case may be. In this case though, for the plate, we just need something small and simple. And for that, I've got a really nice set of Stanley screwdrivers. Pretty easy. And we have something here that I'm pretty sure will fit. If not, well, we may have to go to that bit, but I'm pretty sure this is gonna fit in those little screws. So we're gonna go ahead and we will start by taking this first screw out. Is it fitting? Or is it too big? Okay, so after a tremendous amount of digging, I found the screwdriver I must have used last time in this janky tool pack that it's got a hole in it, that I use to carry around for like FPV stuff. I just throw this in my bag and it's got pretty much everything I need. I need a new bag. But yeah, finally found something that'll fit here. So let's go ahead, let's put all this other junk aside. I gotta put this back in with the toolkit. Oh God, I just, you know, I don't like clutter very much, and I'm one of the people that's like susceptible to it. So, okay, so now that I've got what I need, I can go ahead and show you. We just take our screwdriver, come in here, loosen the screws up. You don't even have to take them out, I don't believe. You just have to loosen them up, and this plate should just lift up then. Once they're thoroughly loosened up, that's what she said. Yep, that's what I thought. Okay, so the plate comes up. I'm just gonna put that to the side here. We don't need that right now. And then what we're gonna do is we're going to just very gently pop these antennae out this antenna, yeah, I guess it's 2 antenna that comes to head in 1. So we no longer need that. We can put that to the side, and I've got that in a spare part pit. I think maybe it's up here. That's where I had, yeah, here it is. We're gonna open this up just like so. And we're just gonna wiggle this bag out. We don't need the rest of that stuff just yet. I'm gonna put that aside. I think we will need some of the screws to mount the holding bracket on there. So we're gonna go ahead and just ever so, it doesn't have to be gentle, I guess. Pop this open, okay. And then what I've seen people do, and I don't think it matters too much, but it's just something that I've seen people do and I continue to do it, is I actually crisscross these. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this down there. There we go, I got it. Oh, okay, so now we'll go ahead and put this other one on. And I know that I mentioned before I got started with this that I was gonna crisscross them. I'll show you what I mean by that. Yep, I got them both in. Okay, so it's just a matter of like fitting them on there. So what we're gonna do before we even get started mounting this is I'm just gonna pop these together like this. And I don't really know why you do this, so if you know why you do this, let me know down in the comments below, because there's a reason for that, I'm sure, to crisscross them. I just haven't figured it out yet. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put those tools away. Now that we've got those attached and ready to go, that's the other reason why you wanna crisscross them first, is because we do need to put this other plate on before we mount the VTX onboard. And the screws might pop out, that's okay. We'll go ahead and we'll just apply just a little bit of pressure, get that down in there, get a nice bite. Same on the other side. Voila. Okay, awesome. So we're set to go now. We've got this ready to roll. We just have to install it. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead, and what I like about this particular setup is that it's really kind of easy to snap this into place. This is where the camera is going to live, and I know that because it's got these guards right here for the actual camera lens, and then the other reason I know that is we've got little ports here for the antenna to shoot up through. This middle port right there would have been if we kept the DJI antenna on board, but we're not going to do that. So instead, what I'm gonna do is just pop the antenna that we put on from the BETAFPV package in like so. I'm gonna just jimmy this up into position, and it sort of will snap into place around the air unit. You can see there's little teeth that'll slide into place just on the bottom of the air unit. And then at that point, our camera mounts in like this. So before we put this on, we're actually going to mount the camera first. And the reason I do that is because it's kind of a pain in the neck to get in there and adjust the camera and get this wound up after we put it on. So there will be some of that after we get it put on, but if I can do a little bit of it ahead of time, it may help to alleviate the headache. So what we're gonna do is we are going to get out our handy dandy. I found it, it was in the bottom of my FPV bag. Don't get lazy, just put your stuff back where it's supposed to go, i.e. in with the rest of your toolkit. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna loosen these screws up. Actually, we're gonna take them completely out. And the reason we're going to take them out is because we need to put it into place on the drone itself. Now with the Pavo Pico, if you remember watching my video, one of my criticisms of the Pavo Pico was that the camera didn't stay into place very easily. So I'd be flying, and if I got too aggressive with my pitch forward, the airflow, that was almost me scratching the lens of the camera or scratching the protector on the lens, but still scary. As I would catch airflow and pitch forward too aggressively, the camera would actually tilt upwards. And that was a problem because, first of all, it affects the way that you fly, but second of all, I don't have a great shot then at that point. So we've got our our screws removed. What we're gonna do is we're gonna line them up just like so. You'll see there's an upper slot and then there's a lower slot. And so we're gonna take those screws and we're gonna put them back through and see if that remedies the problem. Friend of the channel and subscriber of the channel, and he's got his own YouTube channel, which I would highly recommend you go check out. Matt Sherwood was the one that clued us in on why this might be happening. And it was, and I can't remember exactly, and we're gonna find out here in just a moment. I was using the wrong star screws, or the wrong screws for holding the camera in place. It was either I needed to use the DJI screws, or I needed to use the BETAFPV screws, and using the correct set of screws would, at that point, alleviate the issue that I was having with the camera tilting mid-flight. So, do we get any movement? We do. So we're gonna use the BETAFPV screws. I think it's probably the play here. And the ones that we need out of all of these screws in here have a similar head to the screws that we just took out. It's gonna be these guys, these really tiny ones right here. We're gonna give those a shot anyway. Let me just see, let me compare the size of the bolt on them to the ones from the DJI. Yeah, they're about the same size, so that will work. So we're gonna go ahead and get that started now. Get the camera mounted into place. We will worry about the... By the way, if you're ever wondering, I just saw this and reminded myself, if you're ever wondering what's upside down, what's right side up for the camera, because I've seen people put these in upside down, logo on the back will indicate DJI needs to be up right side up, but if you don't have one that has a logo on the back, which I think they all do, but I'm not positive on that, cable should be on the bottom. So we'll go ahead and put the top one in first. I'm trying my best to keep this in center frame. It's just so hard when I'm working with such small parts. It's not something I'm used to. Giggity. Yeah, that's gonna give us the fit that we want for this. So I'm gonna actually unscrew this just a tad, and I'm gonna bring this forward because we don't want it to sit too far back, because then we'll get the guards in frame. Oh, I lost the whole bolt out of there. That's okay. So now that one's down, we'll go ahead and grab another one. And the reason that I don't want a real severe pitch on this one is, despite the fact that it's gonna be bigger, faster, and overall more powerful than the Pavo Pico, is that this is still a cinewhoop. And it's still, like, you know, barely a step up. I'm just gonna tuck this cable now while I've got a moment. It's barely a step up from the tinywhoop class. So I don't really plan on flying this too terribly aggressively. It's gonna be one of those drones that I'm basically gonna be flying for indoor cinematic purposes. So we got that in there. We can adjust the camera angle a bit. And actually, I'm trying to think, relatively speaking, how severe. I can always adjust it. I guess I don't have to worry about it too much right now. Yeah, let's just get it on there. My brain's getting ahead of myself here. I'm trying to think of how I want to mount it and how much of an angle I want on it, but let's just get the screws in place. Let's just get this thing mounted, and then we'll go from there. Okay, wingo, bingo. So from here, it's as simple as connecting the VTX, the O3 Air Unit, to the drone itself, and then mounting the screws. And the reason I'm gonna tell you that you should mount, or you should connect the drone to the VTX, the O3 Air Unit first, is because once you've got this mounted to the drone, it's not impossible, but it is much more difficult to actually get this connected, to get the two connected. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take these little dampeners, and we want to just pop them in through these holes. What you're gonna do is you're just gonna try to work this through, and I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to do it here. So what I would recommend is, if you don't already have them, you should get some. A pair of very fine pointed tweezers. And so what you'll do is you wanna put that shorter end through the hole, so you can still start with your fingers on one side, and put it up through, and then you're gonna wanna go in with your little tweezers.
One eternity later.
I've got it. I think I got it all the way through. I did, wow. Yeah, you'll see, it's a matter of just monkeying with it I don't know whose hair that is. That is certainly not mine. That is white. Although after putting that in, it could be mine, I guess. Yeah, so you just got to sort of work it through. I really didn't use these as much as I thought I would. You just sort of have to roll them through, and then once you've got them in each of the holes, at that point then, you can pop the air unit on and you'll have a nice, stable connection. So let's go ahead, let's just roll the rest of these in. I'm not gonna make you sit through all 4 of these in real time. Let's go ahead and speed it up. Okay, so I got these finally put together, and I found how to do this easily. So what you have to do is you sort of have to work these in. I'm not taking these out again. You sort of have to work these in a little bit and push them through. Like I was just laying them sort of like perpendicular to how they're supposed to go. And then I'd push the shorter end through just a little bit. And then you can take the tweezers or something about that size in terms of the point. You can actually push the other end through, and they're pretty pliable for the most part. But long story short, we finally got this out of the way. So we'll go ahead and put our 4 longer screws out here. And then the rest of them are extras along with the DJI screws. We'll put those right there. And then from here, we are going to attach this first. So go ahead and plop this in like so. And you'll feel this kind of click. It's not like a real hearty click, but it goes in, it'll snap into place. There we go. Okay, so that snaps in, and then from here, we just have to mount our cage that holds the O3 Air Unit in place. And this comes down to just lining everything up the way it needs to be lined up. It's kind of easier to get it lined up with the screw or the dampeners in place now, but it's a little harder just because you can't see the screw hole as easily. But the key with this, as you're tightening these down, is you don't want to tighten them down too far. The reason for that is, first of all, the bracket that holds the O3 Air Unit in place will tend to snap out of place. But second of all, you reduce the efficacy of the shock absorbers because you don't have as much play in them. So those dampeners, the shock dampeners is the correct term, need to have a little bit of play in order to reduce jello in your footage. There we go. In like flint there. And I do the classic X pattern with any type of attachment that's similar to this. I do 2 corners facing each other, or catty corner to each other, tighten them down first, and then only once I've got those tightened sufficiently do I move on to the rest. And this is, yes, there we go. Okay. So now I've got what I need there. Well, I gotta tighten this just a little bit more. Okay, yeah, this didn't go the way I thought it was gonna go. As I was putting this together, popping these screws in to the brackets on the frame, I ran out of tape. So I'm not undoing this to show you because it is just as simple as putting these little screws through the hole, connecting them to the brackets, making sure that they go through the dampeners appropriately, and then you're set to go. There's lots of tutorials out there. If you do want to learn how to screw a screw into a hole, I'm sure somebody will show you how to do it on this particular drone. But long story short, we are done putting the O3 Air Unit, mounting the O3 Air Unit on the Pavo20 drone by BETAFPV. And you know, just before I was about to break this down for the night and call it a night, I did just want to pull the Pavo Pico out to show you the size difference. Like I said, it's not a huge difference. There is definitely an upgrade size-wise and hopefully performance-wise. Not that this did terrible, but if you're flying something a little bit bigger, you do want it to generate a little bit more power. And just based on the motors, looks like it should be a little bit more powerful. They are a little bit larger motors. So I'm anxious to see how this performs compared to the Pavo Pico. One thing that I'll be really excited to see is flight time. Pavo Pico, after I broke the batteries that I received for it and got for it in, I'm getting somewhere around 3 minutes of flight time, give or take, just depending upon how aggressively I'm flying. I'm looking to hopefully get maybe 5 or 6 minutes out of this. That would be fantastic if I could pull 5 or 6 minutes out of the Pavo20. We'll see about that. But before we did wrap the video up, I wanted to just pull those out and let you see a size comparison. Oh, and one other thing. We forgot to do this. Let's go ahead and let's pop this protective sticker off. That wasn't nearly, I'm sorry guys, that wasn't nearly as satisfying as I wanted it to be. That was not great. But we did it, and it is what it is. So there you go. So there you have it. It's just that simple to mount the DJI O3 Air Unit on board the BETAFPV Pavo20. They make it really simple. I told you. I do apologize for that slight glitch at the end of the video. Like I said, I ran out of tape while I was actually recording the assembly process. I ran out right at the end though, so I hope you got most of what you needed there. If you have any questions, something I didn't explain well, or something that you feel like you might have missed towards the end of that process, make sure you leave me a comment down below. I will make sure to respond to the comments in this video, specifically about the process of assembling these two units, the O3 Air Unit and the BETAFPV Pavo20. What did you think of this tutorial? Let me know down in the comments below. Is there something that I could be doing better? Is there something that I missed? Is there something you'd like to know? Let me know down in the comments. I will make sure I respond to you guys. If you liked this video, hit the thumbs up icon down below. It helps me out a lot, helps get this video out into the algorithm to more pilots like yourself. If you really loved this video and you love drone content made by drones, about drones, and for drone pilots, my friend, this is the channel for you. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and while you're at it, hit the bell icon too. You'll get a notification every time I post a new video. Until next time, I'm Chris the Drone Geek, and I am out of here. See ya.
Yo, what you say? Steady screaming, YOLO, rockin' polo, we the fight.